Hey y'all, I wanted to give a quick crypto thesis update. Kind of looking forward on the low time frame, mid time frame, high time frame, what I'm expecting to happen next. It's Monday, June 22nd, and well, this is just kind of a calibration moment and wanted to cut a quick video about it. I would normally say to start with the high time frame view because that's really what a position investor lives on is the mid to high time frame. However, there are people, especially in our mastermind, who are doing swing trading and yield farming and trading bots, and they're trying to maximize their low time frame cash flow or yield bearing opportunities. And so I'm starting here with a low time frame view on the 4-hour chart with Bitcoin specifically. Now, currently Bitcoin is above 64,000. We've had a good little 24-hour run. The last 7 Mondays have been the peak of that Bitcoin performance. And if this Monday, as I'm speaking, is no different, then I want to talk about what we should or could expect. This is not financial advice. I have no crystal ball. I don't know the future, but I am going to talk about, technically speaking, what would be expected here from a market maker perspective. First off, on the low time frame, just short time frame. And I'm going to get to my thesis here in just a second, so hang in there with me. If 65K or maybe 66K-ish is to be the ceiling, what we're experiencing right now is what we would traditionally call chop. And chop is a tactic strategy by the composite man, as Richard Wyckoff would say, to, well, chop you out of your positions, to shake you out, to make sure that you have no confidence to move forward, and to reallocate to something that is a little more shinier and sexier in the moment, aka the SpaceX IPO that now is dumping on everybody. What I could see happening here is, again, in the short time frame, and what we're in the middle of is an potentially A, B, C correction. Now, whether that C correction gets us down here in the 57, 58, or God forbid the low 50s, I don't know. It could be a lower low, or, I mean, it could just come and sweep this cluster here and find ourselves somewhere north of 60. Let's call it 60,500 just for ballpark's sake, because that is a pretty legitimate, I would say, area of interest here for liquidity. This would give market makers the opportunity to drop down in here and create not only more fuel to fuel spot buying upwards for a short squeeze, but it would also create likely create, especially on the higher time frames like the 8-hour, the 12-hour, a bullish divergence on the relative strength index, or also known as the RSI. Bullish divergences are great predecessors to price action reversals. Now, it doesn't have to do that. No, there's no rule, there's no law that says we are in or have to experience an ABC from here. We could experience just higher lows and higher highs and find ourselves at, between 67 and 74, clearing this 67,000 barrier and making our way upwards in a nice low time frame bullish reversal. But we're so deep into this corrective season. Bitcoin's down 50% from its high last year. That this is going to sound paradoxical, so forgive me for what I'm about to say. You might call me a heretic, but it's almost a good thing for Bitcoin's price to go down one more time to give us more fuel for what I anticipate, and this is me kind of getting into my thesis here, a dramatic repricing season. I think that the divergence between the stock market, precious metals, every other asset class this year, year to date specifically, but you could really count all of 2025 as well. The divergence, quite literally, the roads divided between crypto's path and everything else's path in terms of appreciation are so gargantuan and different that there's going to be a massive revaluation of crypto. Now, not everybody is a trader. Not everybody is a low time frame person. Most people in this mastermind are high time frame position investors, and they're just wanting to make sure that they allocate, rebalance, and are prepared for taking profits. And so we want to zoom out. This is the monthly Bitcoin chart. And I'm going to do another little rectangle drawing here, just of an area of interest. If you go back to previous cycles and you look at just the top of these candle wicks and you draw an area, again, an area of interest, something like this forward, you can see where or what Bitcoin is revisiting here. Probably a total market maker playbook here. Again, it doesn't have to close this candle in this monthly candle in this green box. It doesn't have to. As a matter of fact, that wick right there that we've experienced, it's June 22nd, that could have been the visit, right? That could have been the visit. And that being the visit, if that wick down was the end, that would align with my personal investing thesis, is that the second half of 2026 and 2027 are going to be marvelous in terms of opportunity taking and profit taking and outperformance seasons happen. So what I think is happening is we're going to start seeing this repricing phase, potentially starting even the last week of June, last few days of June, probably the first 15 days of July. Again, if someone had me at gunpoint and said, you got to predict the future, even though you're not equipped to do it, I would say July 1 through July 15th, we're going to get a fresh wind here. And it's obvious that we're in an accumulation phase in the market. We're definitely not in expansion. We've just experienced distribution, and now we've just been chopping for several months. And so I believe it's safe to say, no matter what time frame you look at, high time frame down to lower time frames, let's look at the weekly, that I believe, and again, this is my personal belief, just looking at a couple of very basic indicators like the relative strength index, that as the RSI continues to climb upward, that you're going to find a bottoming base here in this area of interest, and we're going to see a pretty dramatic repricing. Now, will that repricing event, like we've covered in previous coaching calls, will it look like a new all-time high? I don't know. I don't think so. I think what we're probably going to experience more than anything is something like this, and then this maybe, and then this in 27. But again, different outcomes, different possibilities, right? So you could get a repricing event that gets us to a new all-time high before we have a really solid crash. Again, these are not to scale. I think no matter what we do, though, they all resolve with a really great 2027. We just have to wait and see how Bitcoin performs between now and, I would say, December. Now, as I've said before, I really think the true star of the show, however, is going to be Ethereum. Ethereum is our kind of our captain when it comes to altcoins. And there's been a very active, I don't know if the right word is suppression, but there's been a very captivated, what Elliott Wave would call an expanded or irregular flat. And it's created this structure, a pretty substantial overhead resistance structure that it hasn't been able to get out of. And once it does, it's going to be dramatic, to say the least. Right now, we're on the bottom of that channel. If Bitcoin finds that relief rally that I'm talking about, I think the repricing of Ethereum is the one to watch, and that's what's going to be really impulsive. It's gonna catch all the experts off guard. It's gonna make all the Bitcoin maxis mad. It's gonna make all the XRP maxis mad. It's gonna make everyone mad, except everyone's gonna be making money while they're mad. And this is obviously a very low time frame expectation. Not to scale. I would assume, though, because we get an Ethereum outperformance season, that it's going to make a new all-time high if Bitcoin can get us back, above 95,000. This will reprice virtually all of the top 50 market cap tokens, and especially the SBETs and the BMNRs that I've been talking about, my balance sheet convexity plays, the digital asset treasury companies that are Ethereum betas, Massive, Jasmy, Sui, AVAX, Chainlink, they're all going to benefit from this. And the one thing we want to keep our eye on is the ETH BTC chart, which is Ethereum's performance against Bitcoin. It had this really good run here. This repricing event was not repricing, but impulsive event was last spring, a year ago, a little over a year ago. And then you had some other moments in 2022, 2023, 24. This right here was the real vertical. Again, I'm on the weekly chart. That vertical move was a very rapid pre-Trump move. And then Bitcoin took over again. And that's where most people got trapped or locked into a lot of altcoin positioning that they're not happy with. But if you'll notice, especially on the RSI, you've got some really strong high time frame bottoming signals right here with the ETH BTC chart. So my assumption is moving forward that we might see some more chop in the days to come. But I think within weeks, we see a new regime forming and potentially an impulsive move. This will be to the detriment of Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance might see a little move and then down. And then lastly, I want to just touch quickly on the DXY. So I would imagine that the DXY, if Bitcoin does what I said it's going to do on the low time frame. Again, if I'm looking at, let me erase all of my drawings and indicators and going back to the Bitcoin 4 hour. If you're able to compartmentalize here for a second, if Bitcoin does the ABC correction, if that's what's happening, and we get another bottom, that's probably because the DXY moves from 101 where we are now to 102, 103 and on this counter trend rally, and then finally breaks down significantly because of oil, blah blah blah, all the geopolitical stuff that's going on. So just a look, just a thesis, just some thoughts as you guys try to ride the waves with me here. Remember, markets move in waves, and opportunity always follows the darkness.